What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and happy Taco Tuesday, even though you're probably not watching this on a Tuesday. But today I'm going to show you my way of making easy and delicious tacos on the grill with a super tasty homemade salsa. When it comes to tacos, steak tacos are probably my favorite. There's a bunch of different meats you can use to make them. And today I'm going to be using this beautiful skirt steak. Check this thing out. Nice and wide, super thin, so it's gonna cook nice and fast. When it comes to these skirt steaks, there's a couple different varieties you can get when you go to the store. One is an inside skirt steak and an outside skirt steak, and one is better than the other. The difference is that the outside skirt steak is from the outside and the inside is from the inside. Okay, so not really, but the outside skirt steak is a little bit more tender and a little more flavorful, so if you can get the outside one. Not all stores have them. The inside is a little cheaper, so it's more popular. For mine, my store, for example, did not have the outside skirt steak, so this is the inside one, and it's still going to be delicious. I'll show you a few tricks you can do to make the meat super tender and still delicious, even though it's the inside skirt steak. So let's just get down to the prep. We're going to make a simple marinade. Now this thing, as you can see, is pretty wide, so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to cut it right down the middle this way. It'll just makes it a little bit simpler to manage and will be a little bit easier to marinate as well. So now we have these two nice pieces, and the one thing you can see on the skirt steak is the direction of the grain. So it goes like this. That's something to remember for later on in this video, which I will explain. I'm also going to cut this in half like so. So you have this nice manageable piece, a little bit easier to prep and more importantly easier to cook, so the whole steak will hit the grill and cook evenly. Because they're thin, it's important that they cook at the same time and you don't overcook them. These are best served medium rare. If you go over to medium or even like a medium well, it's just gonna get tough and chewy. So medium rare is your go-to temperature. This is the thinnest piece out of these guys. You know, this one's a little bit thicker, so this one is probably going to cook quicker, so I'm going to keep an eye on this one when it's on the grill, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's season these up. So what I like to do is we'll make a very simple marinade. I'm going to use a little lime juice, press that down to get as much of the juice out, cut it right down the middle, and we're just going to squeeze this right on the steak. Okay, just adds a little bit of the tanginess. You don't need a lot. Spread this around, flip it over, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now the longer you let this sit and marinate, you know, the more flavor it'll build up. I'm only going to go pretty quick today just to show you guys. So while this is marinating, I'm going to prep my salsa, which is a delicious recipe. I've been making it for the last couple months and it's my new go-to, and it's going to be perfect on these tacos. Just enough lime juice to get it, you know, a little wet, a little shiny on the outside. And now I'm going to hit it pretty heavy with my taco seasoning. So this is a great rub for tacos, not only because it's called a taco seasoning, but just as a really good balance of chilies, salt, cumin, spices. It's not very spicy kind of heat level wise, so it's really perfect for anything and pretty much everybody. It's also low sodium, so we can go very heavy on the seasoning and not worry about your meats being too salty. And then just kind of press that in. You really want it to stick to the meat as much as we can. Flip it over. Right? It doesn't have to be complicated. This is a very simple marinade, little lime juice to add some of the tanginess, plenty of our taco rub, and you're ready to get grilling. You know, if you have more time or you want to kind of mix things up, you can add fresh orange juice, which works really well with tacos. Add some chopped onion, cilantro to really build up the flavor. Maybe some beer. I've done that in the past. That works great too. But if you're kind of short on time or don't want to get too many ingredients, it's a great way to make some tasty tacos without having to get too many ingredients. So just like that, look at this. Our steak is prepped, seasoned. I'm going to move this off to the side and then we can get started on the salsa. All right, let's get started on the salsa. So I'll need my food processor for that. And again, this is a delicious recipe. I learned this from my buddy Chilies and Smoke on Instagram. Brad came up with this, and again, it's delicious. I have a couple different salsa recipes on the page where you kind of char up all the vegetables, and they're great. This is more of a restaurant style salsa where it's a little more chunky and it's delicious. So let me show you how to make that. So let's get this thing opened up. First ingredient are these fire roasted diced tomatoes, and yes, we are using canned tomatoes, and there is a really good reason for that. If you go canned, you get the kind of consistent quality and overall a little better quality of the tomatoes. So we're gonna go with a whole can of these tomatoes right in the food processor. I'm not sure if you guys can hear this, but it is super windy out here today, so I hope the audio comes through okay. First day of spring too, so happy spring, happy windy spring. So okay, 1 can fire roasted diced tomatoes. Definitely get the fire roasted ones. There's other varieties with like garlic. You can get that too, but it's important to get that fire roasted one because that's it'll give it that nice kind of smoky flavor. Next up, we've got chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. So this is gonna add two things. One, it'll add a little heat from the peppers and a little smokiness from the sauce. For these, you can adjust how many you add based on your kind of heat level preference. If you want a little bit of heat but not too spicy, kind of what I'm going for, I'm only going to add about one of these. There's also these onions, I'll add that in as well, and then just kind of scoop out one of these peppers. Ooh, that wind is intense. So this guy's pretty small, so I'll add one and then try to find another one. You can, of course, use a fork or a spoon, or just kind of be crazy and use your fingers. Okay, so here's what that looks like. A little bit more of these onions. So this adds kind of that smoky flavor from that adobo sauce, and it's delicious in this salsa. Next up, we're going with our jalapeno pepper. Again, depending on your heat level and how spicy you want the salsa to be, cut off the stem. I'm only gonna go with one pepper, and I'm gonna actually scoop out the inside to remove the seeds. So just cut it lengthwise and just remove this membrane and the heat. This will make it less spicy, but you still get the delicious jalapeno flavor. So a couple seeds is fine. For the veggies, I like to just kind of roughly chop them up like this. Next, we've got a red onion, and I'm gonna go with about a quarter of it. Slice the end off here, cut it down the middle, and just roughly chop this up. So about a quarter of a red onion. And next, we've got a white onion, and we'll add about the same, about a quarter. You can do just one or the other if you don't want to mix them up. I like kind of mixing the flavors of the two onions. I think it works really well in this salsa. This wind is brutal out here. It's cold, it's the first day of spring. Hopefully it's the tail end of our winter, and spring will be here soon. Or spring is here, I guess, the nicer weather. All right, onion goes in. Next, we've got some fresh cilantro. Just go with a handful, kind of like this much. And anytime you use cilantro, you can go in with the stems as well. That's where a lot of that cilantro flavor is actually in. So just kind of a handful of cilantro, stems and all. Next, I'm gonna zest down my lime into the salsa. So we'll go with the zest of one lime. Cut this guy in half, and we'll squeeze the juice into our salsa. And finally, we're gonna season this whole thing again with our taco seasoning to really kind of bring out the flavor. Oh my gosh, this wind is crazy. Here, let's put this top on this way. Oh, let me plug it in first. Now, one thing when you're blending this or mixing this at home, you don't want to blend it too much. You don't want to get it too kind of pasty and liquidy. Just a couple pulses to roughly chop everything up so it still has a little consistency, and it's just going to taste so much better. Let me turn this on, and we're just going to pulse a little bit so you can see. Look at that. It's looking really nice already. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, it smells so good. Here, look at this beautiful, chunky salsa. Perfect. Here, let me just go for it. Just try a little bit. See if it needs anything. Wow. This is so good. Just a couple ingredients, and it's absolutely perfect. Yeah, this is all that we need. Okay, let's get this out of the way. And I think we can go and grill up our steak next. For this cook, I am using my Weber kettle. I've got it filled up with Kingsford charcoal, nice and hot. Again, these are gonna cook fast, so you want your grill super hot. And yeah, this thing is looking good to me. So just gonna lay these down directly on the grate. Look at that right there. And we're gonna go about 2 minutes per side. Should be enough to get that nice crust. Give it a flip, and our skirt steak will be ready to go. Next week is our kids' spring break. Let me know if you guys have any trips planned. It's always exciting to hear where people are going. Gives us some new ideas for next year. Ooh, here, look at this. Well, this is kind of what you're going for. This beautiful char and crust. Let's flip this one. Oh yeah, look at that. Sizzling. These will be perfect. Usually, when I cook my steaks, I'll keep an eye on those internal temperatures, but these are so thin that you really don't have to worry about that. Again, about 2 minutes, just long enough to get this beautiful color and crust on the outside, and these steaks are ready to go. This is like the perfect piece of a grilled skirt steak. Take this one off first. Yeah, that looks so good right there. Here, check this out. Beautiful crust. on our skirt steaks. They smell amazing. I'm gonna bring these inside, cover them with foil for just a few minutes, and then we're gonna cut into them. It's important to let them rest. That's gonna stop the cooking process and redistribute the juices inside. You're gonna have a much better final product. One last thing I'm gonna do on the grill is to warm up my tortillas. Now, I am going with these street taco size flour tortillas. All right, now I know a lot of you are gonna kind of let me know your thoughts on this, that you should go with corn, and those are great too, but feel free to use what you like. These are actually really tasty. They're nice and soft. You warm them up and they just work really, really well. So I'm gonna drop these right on the grill, and this is about, I don't know, just a few seconds on each side, just long enough to warm them up. You don't wanna burn them. See, that's it, just quick flip. Ooh, that's hot. That is really hot. So see, that's all that you're going for. They get nice and soft, very pliable. They're not gonna break or tear. Ooh, look at this one. Look how nice. Look how nice. Nice and soft. I'm gonna cover these with foil as well, and then we can assemble our tacos. All right, it's time to cut our skirt steak, and this is probably the most important step in this whole process on how you cut it to get it super tender. So let me show you how I like to do it. We'll pick this nice piece over here. As you can see, and as I showed you guys before, the grain runs across our meat, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna slice it across the grain to give it a much better mouthfeel and a more tender bite. So first I'm gonna cut this in half with the grain. Yeah, look how good that looks. Nice and juicy, okay? And now we're gonna go across the grain in this direction. So this is how you get your skirt steak super tender. This slicing across the grain action, you can see, is just starting to fall apart on its own because the grain was cut right across it. See, just pulls right apart. You can leave it in strips, but I like to cut this up into little cubes actually. So you get a much better steak distribution in your taco, and each bite is super flavorful. Look at this little steak piece. Look how nice that looks. All right, let's assemble our tacos. I've got my warm tortilla, so we're gonna go with this first. We're gonna go pretty heavy with our grilled skirt steak. Next, we've got our homemade salsa. It's right on top. Next, I've got this queso fresco. This is a Mexican crumbling cheese and is perfect on tacos. So what I like to do, just break off a little piece, and then we'll just crumble this right over our taco. A squeeze of lime juice and some fresh cilantro. Quick and easy steak taco, ready to go. Let's give this guy a try because it smells absolutely killer. See, here's another reason why I like these smaller kind of street style tortillas. It's nice and full. You can still hold it in your hand. It's not too big. But anyways, all right, let's just go for it. Wow. So juicy. Taco's so good, our church bells are going off. Hands down, my favorite. A little, oh my gosh. Got some of that jalapeno in my throat. Hands down, one of my favorite ways of making tacos. Tangy, spicy, you get that kind of smokiness from cooking this over charcoal. That steak is so flavorful, nice and soft tortilla. So, I mean, start to finish, that was like maybe, what, 10, 15 minutes. Super easy to make. You make your homemade salsa, easy marinade for the steak, quick cook over hot charcoal, and tacos are ready to go. I can't stop eating this skirt steak. It is so flavorful. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to get all the notifications, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. I gotta make more tacos because, oh my God, it's so good. This meat is absolutely perfect.